Hey Cachers, Amy, Shadow Dragon 1 here. Thank you for joining me today. First up, I want to clue you in on some news. I'm excited to announce a project I've been working on is finally out. I wrote a choose your own adventure geocaching book. It's called The Night Cache. It is available on Amazon in both Kindle form and paperback format. I'm really excited about this. Spent a lot of time working on it. I think it's pretty cool. I had a lot of fun with it, if nothing else. I'm just excited that I got to publish it and it's out there. If you want to check it out, it's called The Night Cache and you can find it on Amazon. If you do check it out, please leave a review. Let me know what you think. I'd appreciate it. On to the show. Today we're going to talk about letterboxing. You may be familiar with the letterbox geocache hybrid, and I thought it would be fun to take a look at where that comes from. So letterboxing actually started in England. It's believed to have started in England in 1854 at Detmoor National Park, when a man by the names of James Perrott, Perrott, left a bottle by the pool with a calling card in it and an invitation for those who found the bottle to add theirs. And eventually, visitors were leaving self-addressed posted cards and notes in the jar, hoping that somebody would find them and return them. That's one thing I have found in a geocache before. I think it's cool is a postcard that's been stamped in pre-address that you can write a note to another geocacher that's found that geocache. So they were doing that as part of this, and that's where the term letterboxing came from, because in Britain, a letterbox is what they call a mailbox. So it was, the jar was turned into a mailbox with these self-addressed and posted cards that people were putting in, hoping to get back to hear from others. That's how the first one started. Over time, it evolved, and the current idea is that you stamp. There's a stamp in the letterbox, and ideally you would have your own stamp, and you would have a notebook or journal of some kind, preferably with heavy paper so the ink doesn't bleed through, and you would stamp your personal stamp into the letterbox log and date it and maybe sign your letterboxing name, and then you would take the letterbox stamp and you would put it in your personal log that you keep with you as a record of each one that you found. So letterboxing in its current form caught on in the US in 1998 after an article in Smithsonian Magazine was published talking about letterboxing. Now, I was not able to find who created the first letterbox, like official letterbox here in the US. It's one thing you'll find interesting if you try to Google letterboxing. There is also a form of letterboxing that has nothing to do with finding these boxes, but it has to do with movies. So there's a little bit of data to have to sort through. Most of the stuff I found Googling did refer to letterboxing as the hobby, but just keep in mind if you're looking this up, you may find some other type of letterboxing content related to movie stuff. So if you're interested in trying letterboxing, there are actually two sites that I found for here in North America. There's letterboxing.org, and that seems to be the Letterboxing of North America Association, I believe, is running that. And then you also have Atlas Quest, and that is atlasquest.com that you can also go. And both of them are like geocaching.com. You create a name. In this case, where we call it a cacher name or geocaching name, they call it a trail name. It's your identity for letterboxing. And you create an account, and then you can look up in your area or wherever you want to look up if there are any letterboxes by you, just like you can on geocaching.com. And what you're going to want to do, though, is a traditional letterbox. The way these work is you will go to the letterbox page, and it will have clues. So you'll have a starting location, and then there'll be clues that you have to follow to get to where the letterbox actually is. I have found some letterbox geocache hybrids where they just posted the coordinates at the letterbox location, just like a traditional cache would be. And I've also seen ones where you have to read the cache page and follow the clues to get to the actual location, like in the traditional letterboxing sense. And I did some digging around, and there does not appear to be an app for letterboxing like we have for geocaching. There is an app out there. It's called Clue Tracker for letterboxing. I don't think it's not officially tied to either of the Letterbox North America or Atlas Quest. It'll actually let you look up the letterboxes from both locations, so I'm not entirely sure how they're managing to do that. The app does cost $6.99. I have just looked at if you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing you the example images on my phone here, but it shows you when you're using the app. So it's similar to our geocaching app, but I'm not familiar with all the details of that app, as I do not intend to pay the $6.99 at the moment just to check it out. But there is an app of some sort that you can look at. But if you're not wanting to buy that app, all you're going to need to do is print out your letterbox pages or pull it up from the website on your smartphone, and you can follow it that way. They do have on the website where you can log your find, just like geocaching does, so there are a lot of similarities here. The big difference is the stamp and the finding the clues to get to the location versus just going to a location and searching for a container. So if you want to try letterboxing, as I said, go to one of the two websites and create an account. You'll want to get yourself a rubber stamp. If you want to start out, just whatever rubber stamp you can find them at craft stores or Amazon, all different kinds of places. They have cheap stamp sets for kids in a lot of places, so you could get an inexpensive one if you just want to start out and try it. You'll want a pen or pencil so that you can record the date, your trail name, next to your stamp when you stamp it in the book. Your own sketchbook or journal that you can stamp a copy of the letterboxing stamp into your stamp. It's basically going to be your stamp collection book, your record of your logs. You're going to need an ink pad. Not all of these provide ink pads, and even if they do, you don't know if it's going to be dry or not. You may want a compass or a compass app on your phone, as you might need it for orienting to through some of these clues. And I thought this was funny. It says on the website that a lot of the containers typically consist of some type of plastic food storage container. And we know how geocachers love their lock and locks, so we have that in common. They can be as small as a film canister, these letterboxes, or they can be much larger. So you have different sizes, similar to geocaches, and there are different types of letterboxes. You have your traditional one that's hidden in a location, you use the clues to find it. They also have a mystery box, which is like the traditional type, but they're more vague about the starting area, or doesn't list the starting area, and you have to work out the clues of where to even start from. There's a bonus box, and bonus boxes are clues that are usually found inside the traditional letterbox that will lead you to an extra bonus letterbox. There's a word of mouth box, and this clue is given by word of mouth or typed up, but a letterbox can only be received from the clue from the planter. So you hide a box, it's not published with any type of coordinates, but you just tell people, here's the clues, and they can go out and find it. I'm not sure if that's really used here in the US so much with the 2 letterboxing sites I was able to find. I'm not overly certain how you would track that so much on a website. I had trouble poking around determining the different types of letterboxes. I'm not sure all of these types are used here in the US, but they are interesting. There's been a hitchhiker travel box, which is a traveling letterbox, and it's placed in a traditional letterbox or other form of letterbox for somebody to find it, and then it's moved along. So we've had traveling caches before. We no longer have traveling caches, but historically there was a traveling cache type, and they have a hitchhiker letterbox type that's similar. A personal traveler letterbox, which is much like a traditional box, but instead of being planted, the box is kept with the creator at all times. And if you meet another letterboxer, then you're able to just request that you could use it and stamp it. In the US, this box is usually only attainable if the other letterboxer knows the password or phrase, which is sometimes cryptic or straightforward. Hard to say, but I can see this being something utilized at events. Potentially, I could see that being a big thing at events. Could you imagine carrying around your own personal geocache and going to events and having people find your geocache? Almost like a trackable, personal trackable, but it's a personal letterbox. There's a cootie letterbox, and this is similar to the hitchhiker, except instead of being carried from letterbox to letterbox, a letterboxer passes it from one letterboxer to another, pass from one person to another instead of planting it in a location. You have the flea letterbox, which is apparently a combination of the hiker and a cootie, and you can either put it in a traditional letterbox like you do a hitchhiker, or you can pass it on person to person. Some of these are wild. There's the American parasite, not to be confused with the English parasites, is what the website says. Parasite is very much like a hitchhiker, except instead of being carried by a letterboxer between letterboxes on its own, it's carried along with a hitchhiker. When a letterbox joins parasite to a hitchhiker, essentially infecting it, it is stamped onto the hitchhiker, and the parasite stamp is also recorded in the logbook of the letterbox that a hitchhiker is placed in, infecting the letterbox. There's some crazy stuff here. It sounds really interesting. They even have a virtual letterbox, which is a type of online letterbox scavenger hunt of sorts for an image of a letterbox through different websites, collecting answers to questions posted as the clues to the letterbox. Answers sometimes are unscrambled or emailed to the creator. The final answer is put into a blank web address, and it takes the finder to the image of the online letterbox. I thought that was really interesting that they had a virtual letterbox. There's also a postal letterbox, and these boxes are made like traditional letterboxes, but instead of being planted in the wild, They are sent by postal mail to the people on a sign-up list to receive the box, or pass through a ring of people, or you hand it off or mail it to somebody. And it's usually focused on a theme of some sort. And they're very often well designed and organized. Some of these are really crazy. And also a circle poem letterbox. And it is a kind of art letterbox that was developed in Britain. And there are hundreds of planned boxes. Each of these containers have a rubber stamp and a circle poem that was written by a Scottish poet. And these are cited in locations around the world, apparently, and each has its own nominated keeper. So it's interesting. Letterbox count for your find counts, as we have our find counts as we find it. We have our do not find counts. They have a PFX count. The P stands for plants, which is the number of letterboxes made in place, so that would be equivalent to our hide count. The F is their finds, number of letterboxes found in the wild. And X is exchanges, the count of letterbox exchanges, like your hitchhikers and cooties and all those that go hand-to-hand exchanged. So their find counts are a little different. But altogether, the idea is similar. The idea is to get outside and be active. Letterboxing, it can be done as a solo sport or a group activity, or can be done with your kids and your family. So while there are several differences, there's still several similarities between them as well. So if you're interested in letterboxing, I definitely recommend you checking out one of these two websites, either letterboxing.org or atlasquest.com. And of course, just like with geocaching, there's all kinds of YouTube videos that you can watch that help you get started. And as well, I thought we would take a look at the first official geocache letterbox hybrid that was placed. So the one that is recorded as the first one per a geocaching.com blog, it was called Open Space, and the cache number is GC190. It has been archived, but you can still view the page. This was originally hidden in January 15th of 2001. So when you think about it, less than a year after geocaching was started in May of 2000, then you have 6 months, no, I can't count. 8 months later, the first letterbox hybrid was placed. Which makes sense, because if it became very popular, if letterboxing became popular in the US in 1998, that's really close to that time frame. That's right in that window. So it makes sense that the first hybrid was generated during that time. This was rated as a difficulty 2, terrain 2.5. Now, when you look at the cache page, you'll see that it does not follow the traditional layout of letterboxing per se. It doesn't have the clues that you go find. It appears to be more of one of those traditional type caches where you just go to the coordinates and search for it, but would contain the stamp for you to letterbox with. So that, in a nutshell, is letterboxing. There's a lot more to learn about it if you're interested. I recommend checking it out. Both of these websites have glossaries to look up some of the terms. Some of the terms are very similar to geocaching ones, such as we have BYOP for bring your own pen, and they have BYOI for bring your own ink. So some of them are similar terms, some of them are the same terms, or acronyms like for lock and lock, LNL. And some of the terms and acronyms even vary slightly between the two different websites. But it definitely sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to have to check it out and see what's in my area. If you're interested in the original Smithsonian article, if you go to the letterboxing.org and go to their Getting Started tab, they have a link, Getting Started, and then the drop down of Finding Letters. And on that page, there is a link to the Smithsonian article if you want to check that out. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for joining me and for listening to the podcast. Stay safe and happy hunting.